Today is Thursday, November 17th. You might want to bundle up today because it's -2 degrees out with a -8-degree wind chill. The sun is out now, but we have a 40% chance of flurries over the city. Our 5-day weather forecast shows below freezing temperatures and a mix of sun and clouds for the remainder of this week, up until Monday, where we should expect an 8-degree high and snowier conditions. Thank you for joining us this week. My name is Veronica David, and this is what's making news now. The Canadian Union of Public Employees, or CUPE, is set to strike this Monday after negotiations with the provincial government broke down once again. Laura Walton, president of CUPE's Ontario School Board Council of Unions, says the union focuses on refining jobs for education workers and services for students. Walton revealed that the province offered workers a raise of $1 per hour every year, amounting to a 3.59% raise. Walton says giving workers a raise is good, but it's not enough. Ontario's Minister of Education, Stephen Lecce, says the recent proposed wage agreement totals to $335 million over 4 years without any concessions in return for the province. The strike notice was made on Wednesday after CUPE rejected the government's offers. The Toronto District School Board says they will close schools and move to online learning if the strike occurs on Monday. An exchange between Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Chinese President Xi Jinping is drawing speculations about a downturn in the country's diplomatic relationship. On the sidelines of the G20 summit in Indonesia, a conversation between the two leaders was shared by Canadian media, showing Xi Jinping criticizing Trudeau for his media reports detailing topics from the leaders' informal conversation on Tuesday. The discontent likely stems from Trudeau expressing concerns about China's alleged interference in Canadian elections. Xi accuses Trudeau for leaking their discussions to the media, to which Trudeau responds in defense of Canada's commitment to free and open dialogue. Chinese spokesperson Mao Ning describes the exchange between the leaders as a normal conversation and says Canada must improve its relationship with China. Ontario Deputy Premier and Health Minister Sylvia Jones addressed today that $182 million would be put towards 131 hospitals and 65 community healthcare facilities across the province. This upgrade will allow windows, roofs, heating, ventilation, HVAC systems, and backup generators to be replaced or added. As part of this funding, the University of Health Network will receive $10 million to help address related issues across all of their sites. The Ontario government is providing an additional $827 million to hospitals, giving hospitals a 4% increase from last year. All publicly funded hospitals will receive a minimum of 2% increases in their budgets. Jones stated that these upgrades will help address 3 major areas: health and safety, code compliance, and maintaining the integrity of the hospital's facilities. Students gathered in Queen's Park this morning to peacefully protest against rising tuition fees for international students. The protest was organized by Ontario College Student Association as part of their Need or Greed campaign. Check out skedline.com for Kartik Sharma's coverage on the protest. In sports today, Evan Gravel talks with the Parlay's Sarah Pereira about the upcoming World Cup in Qatar.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Evan Gravel, and we move now to our preview of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. For that, I'm joined by Sarah Pereira, a host and content creator at Parlay. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Well, maybe we can start by talking about, the group stage of the World Cup, what Canada's group stage looks like and how those groups are formed in the first place for viewers that don't know.
Yeah, well, right now it consists of 8 groups compiled from 32 teams, and each group is separated by teams from CONMEBOL, CONCACAF, UEFA, AFCON, and the Asia continent, which I'm forgetting the name now. But you can have 2 teams from UEFA because Europe is so big, and then 1 from each of the other continents. So they try and split it up. So, for example, Canada wouldn't be thrown into a group with either US or Mexico at the beginning, because obviously these are the teams they've been playing against to qualify to get to this point. So, yeah, you have four teams in each group, 8 groups, and then 2 teams from each group will go on to then the round of 16.
Right. And what do you think Canada's odds are of making it out of the group stage?
I think it's a question we've all been racking our brain for the last, 8 months, I guess, way back in March when they qualified officially. I'll be honest with you. I think we're going into this with no expectations. We've made a World Cup after not being in a World Cup since 1986. We have a great young team. Not to mention, we are hosting the World Cup in 4 years. So I think for me, that is the focus. This is a test run. This is an experiment. Let's go in. Let's have a good time and, play some good football and hopefully not get blown out. But with teams like Croatia, Morocco, and Belgium, it is going to be tough. So I think we just have to use this as a learning experience and have a good time, hope for the best, but I think the focus is 4 years down the road.
And who do you think is the toughest challenge in that group out of those 3 teams?
I mean, naturally, I think a lot of people want to say Belgium, and I agree, with players like Romelu Lukaku, Thibaut Courtois between the sticks, Kevin De Bruyne. We're talking about not just top-class European players, but like Champions League level, like some of the best players in the world, period. So naturally, I think Belgium is going to be the most difficult just because of the talent they have. But don't get me wrong when I say Croatia has so much experience in the Euros and the World Cup, and Morocco is an exceedingly talented side that I think people are kind of overlooking, but they have a really young team and they're fast. So they're all going to be tough. I think Belgium will be the toughest.
Right. Well, I think I want to get back to the game on the field, but I'd like to take a moment and kind of maybe zoom out a bit and talk about, what this being in Qatar kind of means. There's been a lot of backlash from players and coaches about the general treatment of LGBTQ people, and throughout the games as the stadiums were being built around migrant workers. What role do you think that will play once the games actually get started? Will there be social commentary from players? Will there be any kind of that hanging over the games? Or do you think ultimately, football will just, triumph over all of that?
It's a great question. There is so much going on in the world right now, and especially what's happening in Qatar obviously shouldn't be overlooked. This has been something that has been building up for years, though, in the making. And I think my concern with it is it should have never been in Qatar in the first place, and there should have been something, or people should have been doing something about that years ago. We've been seeing now a little bit of, an uprise, some protests even, but we're days away from the World Cup. It's not going to change the fact that Qatar is hosting the World Cup now. Now is not the time to be upset. It was years ago. And FIFA is also very strict on having any political affiliation. And think about things like what's going on in Iran right now, the Ukraine. There's so much happening in so many of the countries that are participating, or just around the world in general. They are usually very on it to make sure that they don't have any, for example, if a player scores a goal and they have another shirt underneath with a message, FIFA is very strict about that. So, during the tournament, anything can happen, but I can't see something coming out that we don't already know about, or people raising their voice. I think the players at this point are here to win a World Cup, here to play good football, and I can't get mad at them for that. But I unfortunately right now think it is too late, and if people wanted to do something about it, it should have been done. It should have been done prior.
Right, and it's interesting to see that. I think. What do you think what teams are you looking at as a dark horse to go all the way in this? What matchups are you interested in? What are people necessarily not seeing from the outside? What teams could go all the way that aren't being expected? And in your, opinion, what are the matchups that we should be watching?
It's so funny. We just spoke about dark horses the other day, but this is tough because there are so many solid sides that are, just a level below the big teams like, Serbia, Uruguay, but they have a way tougher, on paper, a way tougher side of the bracket. So when we look at Serbia, they are in a group with Brazil already, so that's extremely difficult. But then if they go through, they have to play the likes of probably Uruguay or Portugal, and then maybe Spain or Germany. So that's a really tough road. I think my biggest dark horse is actually going to be the Netherlands. And I flip-flop on this a lot. Every day it's something new. But they have, on paper, the easiest route to maybe a quarterfinal, a semifinal. Their group is arguably the easiest with Senegal, Ecuador, and Qatar. And if they finish first, they go and play the second place of Group B, which will either be Wales, Iran, or USA. And I think the Netherlands can beat all 3 of those teams if they're feeling like it on that day. So just by that already puts Netherlands in a spot in a quarterfinal. So I actually don't think their team is that great, but their path is much easier. And I put that in quotations because it is a tournament. Anything can happen. Some big games I am looking forward to, though, has to be Spain and Germany. They are in the same group. They have such a history. I obviously grew up watching Spanish football, so it might be, a little bit of a personal note for me. But Spain and Germany, it just makes me think of the semifinals in the 2010 World Cup where Spain won. Like, they've played so many historic games, so I'm always just thinking of these big matchups. And I think even non-football fans will look at that and be like, okay, I know these are two top dogs.
Absolutely. I mean, on a personal level, how does it feel, getting to the point in your career where you are covering football, you are talking about these things, and now it's the World Cup. How does that feel?
I feel like I'm like getting red. Honestly, it's really amazing the fact that I'm talking about football for my career, because I was talking about football regardless. People were probably sick of me. I was posting, on my social media, watching every single game, and now it's like, well, that's what you do for a living. But I made it, a goal of mine. I wanted to do something I love, and how exciting is this to be, working in a career in football, and now it's the World Cup. This is the bread and butter. This is what we all look forward to. So I'm stoked.
Well, we're so glad you have chased your dream and come to talk with us. Last question.
Yeah.
Who's going to win it all?
Argentina. Messi and Argentina are going to win it. As much as I'm a Spain fan, I also grew up watching Messi in Barcelona, and this guy he's the best thing I've ever seen. But besides from that, he's won everything he could win, and the last thing he needs is a World Cup, and he said it was his final World Cup. So this is the romantic in me. It's his career is going to finish, and then he wins the World Cup. But their team is no joke. And so, my personal feeling aside, they have some serious talent. So that's what I'm going to say right now. It might change tomorrow, but I think Argentina has it.
Well, you heard it here first. Argentina is going to win the FIFA World Cup. Well, thank you for joining us, Sarah, and that's all for this week. We will see you next week.
Thank you, Evan and Sarah. In entertainment, Emma Morrison was crowned Miss World Canada on Sunday evening, making her the first Indigenous woman to hold the national title. She will advance to the International Miss World competition next year in Vietnam. Morrison started her beauty pageant career at the age of 16 in the 2017 Miss North Ontario competition, where she was one of 3 Indigenous contestants out of 39 overall. She hopes to inspire Indigenous youth and create more opportunities for them. R&B artist SZA announced her new album, SOS, will be released in December. This long-awaited album comes 5 years after her breakout debut studio album, Control. The sounds of this album are said to include her signature lo-fi beats, but will also include sounds of grunge and acoustic guitar. That is all for news today. Thank you for joining us on Skedlive. My name is Veronica David, and we'll see you next week.